All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is April 17th. We got ourselves a Wednesday and a 16-game MLB slate to dive into in today's video. We do have one doubleheader as well, but like we always do, when we go through each and every one of these games, I'll give you my lean on the side. I'll give you my lean on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props or nerfies or yurfies that we like within the game as well. But as always, keep an eye on the pinned comment. That is where all of my final plays will be. And if you kept an eye on the pinned comment yesterday, you know that's a couple bad nights in a row for your boy here. Rangers first five was the first game of the day. It hits, and I was like, all right, we're off to the races, right? Tore my Achilles right after the starting line. Didn't even make it to the finish line. A terrible, terrible night. That's why I put the dustpan up there. We might as well have got a reverse swept there. So that is not something that we're happy about today whatsoever. Terrible. I mean, there's a couple of them that at the bottom of the first five inning just killed us. So, yeah, sure, some of them were good looks, but how can you even say that? You know, we're not making excuses here. Like, they were bad plays. They were L's. It's either a win or a loss. You know, there's no explaining it or excusing it. But nonetheless, it's a little bit better today, right? And let's get the vibes right. Shouting out Dennis here for the Daily Dinger. If you guys don't know what the Daily Dinger is, all you have to use is hashtag Daily Dinger in the comments. Drop a player you think is going to go deep and hit a home run today. And then tomorrow's video, I'll pick someone that got it right and give you a shout out. So go ahead and use that shout out to Dennis there. And let's go ahead and jump into this slate, guys. If you wouldn't mind hitting that like button and hitting that subscribe button, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling a bounce back. Let's get into it. We got Miami taking on San Francisco in this one. Miami favorites, not favorites, but neither team plus money in this spot. Miami minus 104, San Francisco minus 112. On the bump for Miami is going to be Trevor Rogers. Got a 4.8 ERA this year, 1.87 whip. The FIP is actually okay at 2.96. Going up against Keaton Wynn for San Francisco, 5.06 ERA. Both these guys' expected ERAs today is right around 4.1 type of thing. So FYI. His whip is a 1.19 and then a FIP at 3.92. I like the Giants in this one. Probably just for the first five, though, to be completely honest. I don't really want to trust the Giants bullpen, even though Miami's bullpen is super, bad. So maybe that has some value at playing Giants full game. But overall, I think I'd just rather isolate it to the starting pitcher in this spot. San Francisco going up against lefties here on the road in the last 14 days. Pretty damn good. 12th average, 11th WRC plus. Base on ball rate at 8. These are all top 10 now. Walk rate, on base percentage, OPS, ISO, and slugging. So when they're on the road this year, in the last 14, has been a little bit better than just lefties overall. So give me them on the money line for the first five. We'll see what we can get for odds for those. When it comes to a total, I might look at a first five over. And by the way, for that money line lean or first five money line, I love the fact that Miami won yesterday. This is a Miami team that wins have been kind of few and far between. They are only taking one game of series, right? So I love the fact they won yesterday. I don't see them pulling another one out of this series. So I do like that. But when it comes to a total, I think I'm going to look at the over. I don't really trust the pitching. And like I already said, these bullpens stink, right? Definitely Miami's bullpen, they stink. So if we're looking at Keaton Wynn and Trevor Rogers, like there's nothing there that's telling me they can kind of, suppress offenses regardless of who they are. And Miami, we didn't really talk about their offense, but against right-handed pitchers, they're not absolutely terrible. Like this isn't a good offense to begin with, but not absolutely terrible. So I like the over 8.5 in this spot. And then when it comes to a player prop here, let's jump into the outlier screen. By the way, guys, my voice, I'm trying to make it through this. I don't know what it is. We woke up with like a raspy voice. I don't feel sick. I feel good, but whatever it is. But I like Josh Bell here under 1.5 bases here. I don't mind taking a peek at his under hits, runs, and RBIs. We can see he's cashed out a few more times this year than his just bases overall. So total bases here, he's hit the under in 61% of games, and I like the fact that he's going up against a right-handed pitcher. When he faces righties, his average drops to 293. Everything drops. Everything looks pretty good here. And the splitter is what I'm targeting. We can get a lot of splitters, almost 60% splitters from Keaton Wynn. This is a pitch that he does not face all too well. You can see his K rate jumps to 35.7%, WOBA down at 257. So I like this spot here for him. Guys, if you want access to this tool and be able to look at all the player props in the market and their hit rates and everything like that, check out the link in the pinned comment. It's called Outlier. You'll get 7 days free. They have a pro plan, which is $80 a month, but then they also have just a normal, really good plan for all of this data. You could look at games as well for $19.99 a month after that. So it's a really price manageable tool for what you're getting here. So go ahead and check it out, guys. Again, that link's going to be in the pinned comment. It's definitely my favorite player prop tool out there. You get 7 days free with that link. But let's go ahead and jump back into the rest of the slate here. All right, Baltimore hosting Minnesota here. Baltimore, we still have a TBD on who's pitching for them. This is a Wednesday, so a getaway day for a lot of teams here. So I think some of them are either throwing a bullpen arm or something like that. But we don't know who's up for Baltimore right now. I think we have a few names, Bruce Zimmerman maybe being one of them as a potential pitcher, but nonetheless, nothing confirmed. Pablo Lopez should get the start for Minnesota here on the season. He's had his ups and downs. ERA doesn't look all that great, but WHIP looks okay. FIP looks okay. He's making it deep into games. Not deep, but, giving you 6 innings. But that game against Detroit where he got shelled in his last start, 4 innings pitched, 6 hits, 5 earned runs, 1 home run, still 7 strikeouts, which is crazy, and 3 walks. That's kind of a spot in which it's going to kill his averages and whatnot. So just keep that in mind when you look at guys' ERA numbers and everything like that. One start at this point of the year when they only have a few starts under their belt could easily make this a unreliable number or something like that, okay? So actually, speaking of Pablo Lopez, we can talk about a player prop here right off the bat. I like the fact, so over on our dashboard here, right? On our dashboard that we've built, by the way, I'll have a link in the pinned comment for this as well, completely free to everyone for now. At some point, we might make it a ballers only, so the channel members only play. But for now, this is free to everyone. It goes game by game and kind of gives you the breakdown and the bird's eye view so you know where to start your betting process. But I immediately look at Baltimore's walk rate here. They're really good at everything, right? But their walk rate, 29th in their last 14 against righties. In the last 14 at home against righties, they're dead last. So I go, okay, what's Pablo Lopez's walk line? What are the odds? And it's great to see this. It's 1.5, which is fine. And he's done that. He's kept it under that line in 2 of his starts. And then again, that blow-up start he allowed 3 walks to Detroit, which I don't see him doing that again. You can see he throws a lot of fastball, sliders, changeups. And if he goes fastball, changeup more than anything in a sense, those are pitches that it's easy to control. If he doesn't have a slider today, which I assume he will have a slider, I'm not too concerned about that. But if he doesn't have it, then this is probably chalked because we're only looking at 2 walks. But I do like his under in this spot here. And you can see some of the guys over here on the Baltimore side of things, right-handed pitchers, a lot of their K percentages go up. So he should be striking guys out today, which I wouldn't touch his strikeout line at 6. You can see he's kind of hovered right around it. But I think it's 5.5 actually on some books for juiced odds. Yeah, I wouldn't touch that. I'd actually much rather say, okay, strikeouts help us because you're not walking guys. So Pablo Lopez is going to be our first play in this game. When it comes to the money line, it's tough to sweep a team, and I get it, and we don't even know who's pitching for Baltimore, but they're hitting. I just showed you guys against, righties, other than the walk rate, which kind of sometimes can say, hey, they're hitting the ball a lot. That's why they're not walking a lot, right? I do think that this is another spot where Baltimore's offense can succeed. I think this might stay as a lean, to be honest, just because of the fact that, we're looking at Pablo Lopez. He's kind of like the equalizer against Bruce Zimmerman, perhaps. But I can't ignore that offense. I can't just say, okay, well, it's a Minnesota day, right? Minnesota's been mediocre, offensively this year to begin with. So I just can't seem to get behind him. So I'll take Baltimore again, even though they have the pitching disadvantage. The bullpen should be good. The offense should be good. In terms of the total there, I'll lean towards the over. It's sitting at 8 here. I hope. We look at this and we don't see a team that's like, all right, let's get out of Dodge and let's get out of town onto our next series because it's a getaway game. We should see a little rain in Baltimore too, but nothing that would keep me away from this. I think that, if Minnesota's off bats come alive because we don't have a good pitcher for Baltimore, great. Baltimore, I'm just hoping can kind of handle Pablo Lopez. All right, next up, we have the Mets taking on the Pirates here. Mets have taken both in this series so far, 6-3 and then 3-1. They do have a series. They're going to LA after this, so it's not the best spot for them, and I wouldn't be surprised if Pittsburgh squeezes one out here. It is going to be tough for me to get to the Pittsburgh side of things, to be fully frank with you guys, because their bats haven't looked all that great. They have Bailey Faulkner on the mound, who I'm down to fade Faulkner plenty of times, but but I just don't envision the Mets here sweeping the Pirates. So for those reasons, I'm going to lean towards Pittsburgh, and I don't mind the odds you're getting at plus 120 over on Caesars. Like, that looks good to me compared to paying minus 130 and beyond for the Mets. But there's definitely an angle for the Mets here. They should have a pitching advantage with Severino on the mound. The bats are definitely better, and they have the bullpen advantage. So if this didn't have to do with the fact that the Mets are probably dreading traveling to, cross country here, and then playing, obviously, I think they might have a day off, which is good. But either way, like, I just think that's a terrible spot for them. And again, like, I think Pirates, if you were to tell me before this series, I'd be like, yeah, Pirates probably sneak one out here, right? So this seems like a perfect recipe or perfect spot for that. And we have some plus money. It's just a matter of can Faulkner do his job, which not always, and can the bullpen kind of stay intact? So, yeah, I see your angle if you're on the Mets side of things, but the price and the value of that just doesn't seem like it adds up to me. I don't mind looking at Luis Severino's over in strikeouts for plus money, though. You can get that at plus 130 on FanDuel right now. A lot of other books have that, at the plus 110 range. Now, he's yet to do it. He did it this season, so excuse me there. He did it once this season. He had 6 against Milwaukee, 7 against Cincinnati, who strike out a ton, and then only 4 against Kansas City here. But if we look at the dash, you could see right here, the Pirates 23rd against righties this year in terms of K rate, on the road, 4th worst team. So maybe we do see a couple extra Ks for him in this spot. And we can also flash back into outlier here, and we know that he's going to throw fastball, change, and then slider. So fastballs, a lot of these guys, their K rate goes down, right? The green means they don't strike out that much. So, there's a poor one. Look at the change. He's going to throw a change 20% of the time. Slider, same thing. So the fastball is going to be the setup pitch. He's going to throw those earlier in the count, blah, blah, blah. But you go fastball, all right, no one's striking out. Then you go change, slider, even if he throws in the cutter, there's a few red numbers there. But these change and sliders are going to be the pitches that we're looking for today for him. In terms of a total in this spot, I kind of went back and forth on this one, so I don't think that this one makes its way into being a final play. But overall, I'm going to lean towards the under because I also like the Nerfy in this game, so that's going to be something we're looking at for plus 100. If you can't get plus money on the Nerfy, I'm not sure if I totally like it, but I don't mind it for plus money here. It's over on MGM at plus 100 right now. So I'm also going to lean towards the under as well. I hope that, plus, if we're leaning towards Pittsburgh, I'm hoping Faulkner has sort of some progression in his game, you know what I mean? And this could be a Luis Severino and Faulkner duel, which sounds kind of crazy saying. But Faulkner, if it wasn't for, I talked about the small sample size for pitchers. Like, he got dinged up by Miami in his first start. Since then, he's looked okay. He handled Baltimore. He handled, Phillies, who are terrible offense. So I think that, this guy isn't a great pitcher, but I'm hoping he can get a little bit of progression today, which would help my under as well. All right, next up, Milwaukee taking on San Diego. We don't have a pitcher for Milwaukee right now, so we'll go through this game kind of quickly. Michael King on the mound for San Diego. He's got a 4.19 ERA, 1.5 WHIP, and a 7.31 FIP. Guys, when your FIP is higher than your ERA, that is not a good look as a pitcher. What the FIP does is it pretty much strips out, fielding and whatnot behind you, so it's pretty much a pitcher in a vacuum, and that is just not what you like to see. So I do think Milwaukee's offense can take this one. I wouldn't be surprised if they pull this one out. We don't know what the odds are or anything yet because we're still waiting for Milwaukee, but I'm kind of hoping that they come in with, a similar, style of pitcher where it's not the best pitcher and we get some decent odds because I'm down to take Milwaukee today in a getaway spot here. Whereas they go to St. Louis after this, but the Padres have been in Milwaukee. They go to Toronto, traveling to Canada, playing in a couple days. This could be a good spot for Milwaukee to kind of catch Michael King and that offense to sort of explode again, because as good as Milwaukee has been this year, right? Their last 3 games, 4 runs, 3 runs, and 3 runs. They got some bats that are just dormant right now, waiting to wake up. So I do think that it's worth considering Milwaukee. And then we don't know what the total will be. Say it's going to be what it has been, right around 8.5 in this spot. If I like Milwaukee's bats, I think I got to lean towards the over here as well. Or if anything, maybe a team total for Milwaukee too, Detroit taking on Texas. You guys know I love to bet Texas. They were our one win yesterday, and I really did want to get there again today because of the plus money, right? Like looking at plus 120 compared to this minus 142 for Detroit. I couldn't do it. You can actually get Detroit at minus 130 on Caesars. So if you have Caesars, some value there. I have to lean towards Detroit. Tariq Screwball on the mound today for them, and the dude is just good, right? The dude's really good. And Texas's offense does take a little bit of a step back when it comes to facing left-handed pitchers compared to righties. So, that in and of itself kind of says, all right, well, if we're going to bet on Texas, it's usually because of the offense. They do have Dane Dunning, who I don't necessarily hate, but either way, when you're betting on Texas, it's usually because of the offense, right? And if I look at Screwball, it's like, all right, come on. Like, this dude is obviously an absolute stud. So far this season, he's got a 2.08 ERA, a .75 whip, a FIP of 3.11 with a 32% K rate. So I have to consider Detroit in this spot. Maybe in the first 5 so we can isolate it, but Detroit's bullpen blows Texas's bullpen out of the water. So even like looking at it from that perspective, it's like I'm not really afraid to go full game here. It was a close game yesterday, so I'm just kind of concerned about Foley, their closer, and then Chaffin, their setup man, going yesterday. But either way, that was the first time they pitched in 2 days, so I think that their bullpen should be fairly healthy. So it depends on what odds we can get in terms of better odds, I guess I would say. From a total perspective, I like the under too. I think that Screwball is gonna keep them suppressed today, and this is a Texas team that last in K rate, so they're striking out a ton on the road against lefties today. Against just on the last 14, and then their walk rate, they're not walking at all either. So if they're striking out a lot and not walking, that means that they're striking out like a lot, like they're not getting the ball in play and whatnot, because if that was the case, their K rate would be pretty low. Walk rate would also, maybe be low, but the K rate wouldn't be worst in the league last 14 against lefties on the road. So it is what it is. I'm kind of going against what my gut wanted, which this big old gut doesn't always get its way. We're going Tariq Screwball and Detroit money line here. I'm also going to take a peek at the under because Detroit's offense, we didn't really even talk about that. Not the best against right-handed pitchers whatsoever. So we're going to lean towards the under just because of the offenses, but I'm really hoping Screwball can come in and crush it, because I also like his over in strikeouts. So he's done it in 8 of his last 10. Only once this season against Oakland here. Didn't do it against Minnesota, didn't do it against the White Sox, but like I just told you, this is a spot where I do think Texas, the last 30 games here, too, striking out a ton against lefties, and we know that he's an absolute strikeout magician. He's going to throw fastballs. Even the Rangers strike out a decent amount against fastballs. Changeups, half of them. The slider will kill him. We don't really have to go into sinker because he throws that 10% of the time, but should be a decent spot for him here. Another player prop I like is another Tiger. By the way, that Tariq play is going to get you plus 110. Don't hate that whatsoever. Another play that I'm actually considering here too is going to be Kerry Carpenter. Over hits, runs, and RBIs. I don't mind his over in total bases. I am gonna like probably maybe we split a half unit or split a unit between the two, but reason being his average jumps against right-handed pitchers. He has one hit. It was a home run in 4 plate appearances against Carpenter, so we don't mind seeing that. WRC plus at 128 against righties, and you can see batting average jumps to 270 for Dane Dunning when he faces left-handed batters. So this could be a good spot for Kerry Carpenter to get a couple hits or a couple bases. In fact, his hits line, if you get it at, let's see, 1.5 or plus 280, like that's a flyer. I'd much rather go hits, runs, RBIs, then total bases, then hits, if you're looking for something like that. But guys, again, if you do want to check out Outlier, I'll give him another shout out here. Make sure to go find this link in the pinned comment. Again, 7 days free. If you guys watch my NBA videos, you saw the damage we did in player props in the NBA. I can't wait for the rest of the baseball season as we get more and more data built in to be able to just crush the MLB, because this is such a good player prop tool. Make sure you guys go ahead and check it out. But yeah, lean towards Detroit, lean towards the under, and then a couple of those player props that I mentioned. All right, Houston taking on Atlanta, 2 of the best or better offenses in the league, and we've bet 2 overs on them already, and neither one of which has come through here. 6-1 and 6-2. Atlanta's been crushing it. I do think there's maybe a slight, batting edge to Houston at home here today, so I'm going to lean towards Houston for the plus money as well, just because I think these two teams are both offensively so good that, we look at Atlanta, they've won the first 2, right? I think Houston's due for taking one here. They haven't even looked like they've been competing, but JP France on the mound going up against Max Fried, I don't see much of an edge there. Both the freaking guys' ERAs are in the 8s. Do they stay there? No, we actually can look up their expected ERA. Here we go. Fried's expected ERA is going to be 4.4. Okay, that's not great still, but it's all right. JP Francis is at 5. So both these guys still, even though their ERA is in their 8, it's not like they're getting much better in terms of where the advanced analytics think they're going to go. So I'm going to lean towards the over again. I'm a psycho. I get it. I've already taken it twice. It hasn't hit. It's now down to 9. Let's run with it, okay? Hopefully Houston can go out there and score too, because like I said, I lean them on the money line as well. And I don't have any major player props that I'm looking at in this spot and absolutely loving. Azuña over player runs. I like that because you can get it at -110 on FanDuel. It's -130 elsewhere, so it's just kind of an EV play there as well. One that I could get, it's kind of more of a flyer, would be Orlando Arcia over 1.5 player bases. That's for +150 on FanDuel. So again, if we were to roll with that, it might be like a quarter unit, something like that. But I much rather Houston money line and the total over before we look at player props in this spot. But when I like an over, and I think that there's some Houston bats kind of, you know, waiting and waiting to wake up, and Atlanta's obviously going to be able to put some numbers on the board. I think that there are some player prop overs to consider because someone's got to hit the ball. All right, so we got the White Sox hosting Kansas City. This is the doubleheader, and there's no like nothing in my body makes me want to take Chicago. But if there's gonna be a time to take Chicago against the Royals here, it's probably going to be when you can take them, first game and second game in this doubleheader and say, okay, well, it's tough to just beat a team, twice in general, but never mind the fact, in the matter of hours of one another. So, and Kansas City, what they lose? They won 2-0. So Chicago only lost by a couple runs in that first game. I do think that this could be a spot where, we get a little crazy and sound the psycho alert alarm again and bet Chicago White Sox money line for plus 150 and beyond in game number 1, plus 170 on Caesars for game number 1. That's absolutely crazy, and you can get them at plus 150 in the second game as well. So it could be crazy, but I do think that could be a time to, okay, if you want to take a flyer, right, and potentially hit decent, like what if the White Sox win both those? What if? Do I think they will? Probably not necessarily. The first game is Brady Singer going up against Jonathan Cannon. We talked about it yesterday. I leaned Royals first 5, which, again, if you were to put these games in a vacuum and take the doubleheader out of the equation, that's definitely still something that I would consider. But again, I'm only taking, if I take Chicago, it'll be because I'm taking them in both games. So if you put this game in a vacuum, forget everything I just said. I like the Royals first 5, blah, blah, blah. But doubleheader is something to consider today, but it's Brady Singer going for game number 1. And then I believe Michael Wacha going up against Fedde for game number 2. So, overall, I could have a little bit of a strategy there, but you know what? I've done crazier things, so we might roll with it. In terms of a total for both of these games, I think I'm going to lean towards the under just due to the fact that we have such a bad White Sox, offense. Kansas City might be able to put up some runs, but again, it's a doubleheader. Like, weird things happen. So I'm going to lean towards the under probably in both games. In fact, we probably won't even cover the second game when we get to it because same sort of rules apply. All right, Toronto taking on New York. A couple decent games so far in this series, right? We had Toronto winning both of them, 3-1 in game number 1. That was with Bassett on the mound, and then Kikuchi yesterday, 5-4 win there. Stroman on the mound for the Yanks, going up against Kevin Gausman, who Kevin Gausman didn't look all that great, hasn't looked all that great, I should say, so far. Which we know he's a good pitcher, right? Like I just feel like he has to be. So I think he comes back down to earth, and his earth being better than what he's been. And Stroman really has been a pretty good pitcher to start the year. 2.12 ERA, 1.06 WHIP, 3.4 FIP. Like, this is a guy that I'm not necessarily worried about. Has decent numbers against his old team too, but decent numbers against some of these current guys on the roster. His expected ERA today is a little bit higher than normal at 3.5. So there's something to consider. But Gausman's expected ERA doesn't really dip much. It stays at 10. So I look at this and I'm like, all right, 2 good pitchers, but this is a perfect storm for a Yankees win, right? Like, Stroman pitching well, expected ERA jumps a little bit, but for whatever reason, they're not thinking. The advanced analytics here are not saying that Gausman, the progression is there necessarily. Like, his expected ERA is at 10. So give me the Yankees on the money line almost want to put a full unit on this. We rarely so far into the season have been dropping full unit plays, but I think this could be a good spot for the Yankees to take one in this series. Like, it's kind of surprising to me. It would be surprising, I should say, if the Yankees, don't pull this one off. So and get swept, right? So give me the Yankees. In terms of the total, though I like the pitching, no, I'll do it. I think I got to trust the pitching. I was going to say if Gosman's expected ERA so high, maybe he gets shelled, but I trust both these pitchers right now. I'm going to lean towards the under, but I think the Yankees probably end up winning this one like 5-3. So it's a decently scoring game because I believe in the bats. But yeah, give me like a 5-3 win. Yankees win this one outright, and we might be, like I said, it may be one of our full unit plays today because, for -112 in a spot in which I think Toronto, is already happy with taking 2 of 3 against the Yankees, division rival, blah, blah, blah. I like that spot. Player prop perspective, it's an EV play, so not like the trend necessarily is totally backing this, but right now, Anthony Volpe over 1.5 bases, +140 on FanDuel, right? +140, remember that number. +110, +115 elsewhere. So tons of value in that one. For a near pick'em type odds on most books, you're getting a flyer type +140 number over on FanDuel. So that's definitely worth considering. All right, Dodgers taking on Washington. Not really a game in which I'm thrilled about, just like we have been throughout the entire series. When we're looking at -245 and that type of thing, nothing's really, exciting. Dodgers staying home after this series too, hosting the Mets, so it's not like they're going to be uncomfortable. Washington has to go and play the Astros, so it's like one good team to the next. So I'll lean towards LA, but they got to be in some sort of money line parlay or something for me. In terms of a total, we don't know who's pitching for the Dodgers, by the way. Jake Irvin's on the mound for Washington. He's actually been pretty good this year, but the Dodgers should be able to get to him. He's a righty, and the Dodgers should be able to get to everybody. So I'll lean towards the over, but again, hopefully you guys can tell by the tone of my voice, it's not my favorite spot, just due to the fact that I don't see the value. Like, that's not a big enough number for me to take the Washington Nationals, like +200. Like, sure, some people might be, but I'd need to see like the reciprocated like +240 to pull trigger on, or to even consider Nationals here. So, but I'll lean towards the over. I had Oakland taking on St. Louis. Paul Blackburn on the mound for Oakland, and the dude's been good, right? How many runs has he let up? Let me see. I don't know if I can count that high. Oh, right. He hasn't let up a run this season, which is impressive. Cleveland, Detroit, and then Washington is who he played. So it's not like he had to go up against one of those, I guess, really good teams or anything like that. So sure, that may be a factor. But overall, like, give the guy credit, right? He's pitching 6+ innings. I think he's averaging like 6 2/3 with a 0 ERA, a .72 WHIP, a 2.56 FIP. So strong pitching advantage here to Oakland. Mats has 2 good starts in a row, but the teams that he's faced in his last 2, so Arizona, okay, I'll give him credit for that one, but he faced Miami, and that was one of his best outings of the year, kind of pulling his numbers back. But I will say, he went up against the Dodgers, gave him 5 1/3, only 2 earned runs, no home runs, and 5 hits. So I say strong pitching advantage to Oakland, and I still do mean that. But I guess you could say Mats is looking okay. Oakland's bats against lefties stink. But St. Louis's bats against righties isn't like all that amazing. So I think I'm going to jump to the under in this spot immediately. Now it's at 7.5 here on the graphic. You can get this for 8 on plenty of books. So under 8 right now on Caesars is -110. So this is probably a spot in which I would definitely consider an under, because I think the pitchers are actually pretty good and the bats aren't really there. And also for the money, I probably would consider looking at Oakland here to steal one in St. Louis. Again, for +126 odds, like I don't think that you can really go wrong with that. Trusting +130 on Caesars, actually. Trusting Blackburn to continue doing his thing against, and I know I named the teams that he played against, and I was like, they're not the best, but like, I'd throw St. Louis into that category too, right? So definitely a good look there in terms of what you're getting for value to me. Yeah, no major player props that I'm liking in this one either. I'd go under in Oakland. I had Arizona taking on the Cubs. First play that I like in this game is actually going to be taking a peek at the Nerfy. I like that spot right now for you can get that for +115 over on ESPN. Plus money bet elsewhere too, so we do like to see that. Why I like that? So we have Jordan Wicks on the mound, who, so far this season through 2 starts, or through 3 starts, has hit this 2 times in a row. But all 3 of the times that he's pitched, he hasn't let up the run in the first inning. So for him, he's looking okay. Arizona, similar for Brandon Pfaadt here. One time, no, but all but one time, and it's only 3, so I say all but one. He's yet to hit a nerfy, but all of the times except for one, so 2 out of the 3, he was the one not letting up runs in the first inning. So I do think that's a good look overall. And again, for plus 115 odds in this spot, I don't necessarily hate that whatsoever. From a full game / first 5 perspective, I'm Arizona here. I'm going to trust Brandon Pfaadt up against Jordan Wicks. Jordan Wicks, not the best start to the season overall. Through 3 starts, he's got a 5.7 ERA, 1.7 whip. The FIP is nice at 2.36, but Pfaadt also not really looking all that tremendous. And he's had a couple rocky starts in a row. So I think this should be a good spot for him to kind of come back and bounce back, I should say. He has decent numbers against some of these guys on the Cubs, so we'll see that. I like Arizona here today. In terms of the total, I'm going to lean towards the under in this one. Not that I'm fully trusting the pitchers or the bullpens, but to get to 10 runs, I do think that would be a decent amount. And they're coming off of an extra innings 12-11 game here. And this is a getaway game. Like, I could see them being like, all right, let's just kind of get through this one, you know? So give me the under as well. All right, Seattle taking on the Reds. And why, oh, why do I just keep betting Reds? This would have been the ones yesterday, though, that does end up cashing had the bottom of the 5th inning not occurred. So tough spot there, but nonetheless, like I just can't, I feel like I'm going psycho doing the same thing over and over again with the Reds and expecting the same results. We hit them last week in the first 5 money line, and then we've bet them, I think, twice since and lost both. Neither offense looking all that great here, whereas the pitching kind of looks good. Bryce Miller on the mound for Seattle going up against Andrew Abbott of Cincinnati. Miller's ERA 1.96 so far to start the year. Obviously, that's probably due for a little bit of regression to some degree. And Andrew Abbott's ERA 2.6. I'd say the same thing about him. I'm going to lean towards Seattle in this spot just because, again, I feel like I've done the same thing over and over again, and it hasn't worked out. But you do know that the minute I bet Seattle now, the Reds are going to crush them. So take that for what it's worth. This may be a fade me type of a spot. In terms of the total, it's sitting at 7.5. I kind of wish this was higher, obviously, because I do like the under, but 7.5 is pretty damn low. But we've seen a high-scoring game and then kind of what I would expect more so, a 3-1 game yesterday. So that's kind of what I'm looking for today. I'll lean towards the under, and then no player props that I'm really over the moon about in this spot. I was skipping over that Chicago and Kansas City game because it's just about the same thing like I mentioned. But overall here, diving into the Phillies and Colorado. This is a spot in which, similar to what we looked at from the Dodgers game, like I think I might consider Phillies in some sort of a parlay. Maybe we do Dodgers, Phillies, and then probably have to throw one other favorite in there. Or we throw in like the Yankees, something like that to get it going, a play that we're confident about. But the Phillies should sweep here. Will they? Who knows? Their bats really haven't been all that tremendous, but I can't trust Ryan Feltner out there on the mound. Chris Sanchez, their numbers do look a little, similar when you look at it at bird's eye view, because Feltner hasn't pitched horribly whatsoever, and he's had to go up against some decent offenses. But Christopher Sanchez is probably going to be the guy that I trust in this spot. So give me Phillies on the money line. In terms of a total, so far what we've seen in this series is a 1-2 game and a 0-5 game. I don't really see any reason why either one of these offenses would just all of a sudden come out of its shell. So give me the under 8 in this spot as well. All right, Rays taking on the Angels. This series is split so far, and the Angels' bats don't look all that bad. They're averaging almost 5 runs for on the season here. So that's definitely something worth noting. I don't mind... Wow. I don't mind looking at the over in this spot overall, just because I do think that, these pitchers must be due for some regression at some point. We have Tampa Bay going against the Angels, and I'm kind of rattled that I just belched into the mic. But you know what? I didn't see it coming, so it's not my fault. I didn't plan it. But Lytle on the mound and Dietmers, both with a sub 1.5 ERA this season. The FIP's looking good. At some point, these guys don't necessarily, keep doing that. And I'm not saying either one of them are bad pitchers, but they're pitching with those ERAs, they're looking really, really good right now. And Dietmers going up against Baltimore, Boston, and then Boston again. He doesn't have the biggest of sample sizes, but Lytle going up against the Angels. We saw this matchup already. He went up against Colorado, and then he went up against Toronto. So kind of all over the place. And do they play good teams? Do they play bad teams? That type of thing. I think with this matchup here, it comes back to earth a little bit. Like, he didn't make it deep into this matchup last week, so I'm going to lean towards the over. In terms of a money line play here, man, I look at this series, and each game I'm like, yeah, I think Tampa Bay is the better play, Tampa Bay is the better play, but I don't know if I can necessarily get there. You know, the bats look better on the Angels side of things, and even the bullpen looks better on the Angels side of things. So you know what, I'll lean towards the Angels. You know, you're getting a decent price at plus 115 on FanDuel, so sure. We do have a couple player props that I like here in this spot as well. First one being Yandy Diaz over 1.5 either total bases or hits, runs, RBIs, depending if you want to go for it or if you want to play a little bit safer. But his batting average is 355 against lefties. WRC plus over 200. And you look at the main pitch, he's going to get fastball. K rate looks really good. The slider, yeah, it doesn't look all that great, but if he's going to get half his pitches fastballs, he should be good. And then same team, same play. If you want to go safe, hits, runs, RBIs. If you want to mix it up a little bit, go bases. But Harold Ramirez here, same thing. His average jumps to 387 against lefty. WRC plus does as well. And then same thing with the fastball. Woba jumps as well as his K percentage. So two player props that I like in that spot. Again, however you want to play it, go for it if you do want to tail that. I probably would say split whatever you're putting on it between the heavily juiced one and the plus money one, just so you can kind of have, you know, your ass covered either way. All right, we got Tanner Houck on the mound taking on Ben Lively, who we don't have much data for, obviously, here. Tanner Houck's had a good season, though. 2.04 ERA. His expected ERA, let me pull that up really quick. His expected ERA is a 4.4, so obviously a little bit of regression due here. But going up against Ben Lively again, we haven't seen in forever, so I'm gonna trust the Red Sox in this spot to get one in this series. Like, if they lose this game, they would be swept at home by the Guardians. So give me the Red Sox here on the money line. Trusting Tanner Houck. Total sitting at 9. I think you can get it at 8.5 on some books as well. We saw a super high scoring game yesterday, but I kind of think that Houck goes out there and does his stuff today. So I'm going to lean towards the under in this spot due to the fact that I think this is going to be not a one-sided affair, but I do think this could be like a 5 to 2 game type of a thing, because I think the Red Sox could tee off on Lively here, who definitely hasn't seen action in a while. Player prop wise, Will Brennan over 1.5 bases. It's an EV play, so that's kind of why I call it out. Plus 125 on FanDuel. Most sportsbooks have it at even odds, so you're definitely getting some bang for your buck there as well. But guys, that's going to wrap for today's show. We kept it under 40 minutes today. Look at us. But still, if you made it to this point, comment 40, because then that'll suss out the people that know what 40 means, and it's the minute mark that, you know, maybe they don't make it that far. They'd be like, what the hell? The video's not even 40 minutes. What's 40 mean? I don't know. Maybe I find enjoyment in small things like that. But comment 40 if you made it this far. Appreciate the hell out of everyone tuning in. Let's get this train back on the tracks. We're hot to start the year, and we've had a few bad nights in a row. Every time we sweep, I feel like the baseball betting gods are like, hey, have a couple bad nights. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. We're gambling at the end of the day. We're gamblers, right? Catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.